This is a springtail, one of the most common animals on Earth. I found this one right in my backyard, and something like it's probably in yours too. They're incredible, but you can only really see why if you film them like this, at 50,000 frames per second. What you're watching is over 1,600 times slower than real time. Springtails live their lives in the soil and the leaf litter, feeding off of fungus and decaying plant material. If you want to see them for yourself, here's what you do. Scoop up some leafy debris along with the top couple centimeters of soil. Throw that into a container with a mesh screen at the bottom and sift that into a second container. What you'll be left with are a bunch of tiny critters collectively referred to as the soil mesofauna. These are things like mites, pseudoscorpions, tiny spiders, and the springtails. And of course, they're small. Here's the one you saw at the beginning of this video on a pencil eraser for scale. From front to back, the total body length is only about 1.7 millimeters. Their small size isn't the biggest challenge I faced when trying to film springtails. It's more about finding a camera that's fast enough with high enough resolution to resolve the flick of the furcula down to the ground. Last year, I filmed this globular springtail jump at 73,000 frames per second. That was about the limit of what my cameras could do. At the time, this was probably the clearest image of a springtail jump ever recorded. But even at this speed, the flick of their tail down to the ground only lasts about 9 frames. So a few months ago, the people at Vision Research lent me this giant TMX Phantom camera for a few days. It's one of their most powerful models, and all I did with it was film springtails. Here's what working with a springtail on set looks like. That little dot in the middle, that's the animal. And to bring it into frame and focus, I moved the whole stage. It can take hours to capture a good sequence where the animal does the behavior in focus and at the right orientation to the lens. Here's a good sequence I captured at 150,000 frames per second. It's twice the speed and twice the pixel resolution of what I've been able to capture and show you on this channel last year. This sequence is probably our new best view of what happens during the jump of a globular springtail. Up to now, most of my work has been digitizing and describing those jumps. But globular springtails are very different in body type than the elongated ones that you saw in the beginning of this video. The point of filming those sequences was to compare what's different between the jumps of these two types. Here are two sequences captured at 76,000 frames per second. It only takes the globular on the left 1.5 milliseconds to get off the ground, accelerating at 798 meters per second squared, which is pulling 81 Gs. The elongated springtail on the right takes 4.8 milliseconds to jump, only accelerating at about 80 meters per second squared, or just over 8 Gs. I think the performance difference has everything to do with how the furculas work. The elongated springtail slaps the furcula down against the ground, and there seems to be no tension left in it. It bends as it extends behind the body and then just sort of lifts off the ground. Whereas the globular has a much quicker flick, and the whole furcula seems to be in tension, pushing the entire time and even accelerating backwards after the springtail leaves the ground. A lot of what you just saw will end up being published in an academic research article. But what excites me about this stuff just as much as doing the science is seeing it for the first time and sharing it here with you. So thanks for being here and watching this video.